Welcome. I'm a glass blower. These are all glass blowers. Some of us are full-time. Some of us are part-time. Some of us, like myself, are side-time, only when I get a moment. So, as you all know, we recently had a really bad flood. It sucked. It sucked bad. And we are trying to come back from it. So today, we are making a resurrection piece. All these little shards that John, in the black hair here on the right, he's going to be the one making the piece right now. Just found these on the ground, and we were like, let's see what we can do with them. Now, each one of these may just look like a shard of broken glass, but each one has a different pattern and color technique application. Some are more complicated than others, but color on the glass is what is also expensive and makes it awesome. And so you add the color to the clear, and the way that you add the color and the kind of process that you do, that's what makes it hard or easier. Let's just say nothing's easy in glass blowing, but more complex or more simple. And so we found some of the coolest shards that we can. Some of these pieces were found down the alley, across the street, you know, but once we find them and we love them, the artist that made them decided I'm going to try to do something. So we have a select little few pieces over here that we've picked that survived the flood, and we're heating them up all on a little plate right here, and we are squishing them together slowly. Now you can't heat these little pieces. They're all different colors, right? So if you think about colors, where do they come from? They do come from the periodic table. So if you close your eyes and imagine the periodic table, all those different little elements are different color-ish shades. So since they're all different elements, when you try to squish them all together and heat them all back up and put them all together again, they may or may not actually work. You don't know. They're all different compatibilities, what we call, and they have a different shrinkage and shrinkage and contraction rate when you slowly cool them down over there. And all those little black boxes, those are called annealers. And when you finish the piece, you put it over there and you slowly cool it down for a period of 24 to 48 hours, whatever you choose. The thicker the glass, the longer the annealing period, right? You got to let it cool down slower so it doesn't crack and shrink. So anytime you make anything, if you add color, you don't really 100% know that it's not going to, after you finish it and it's beautiful, you're not going to put it away in the annealer and find it cracked the next day. But we are winging it. We're going to just put all these pieces together and see what happens. When you are slowly but surely squeezing all these little shards together, yeah, it's getting flatter and flatter, and it's very Play-Doh-like at a certain point. But every time one of those pieces meets up with another piece, it can trap an air bubble. And you don't know that at all. You can't see that at all. There's a piece on the bar, if anybody is enjoying a Friday night beverage this evening. When you go on the bar, there's a very large piece, and that's for raffle this evening, so get your raffle tickets because you can take it home for free. All you have to do is stay to nearish the end of the night, and then we'll call off the number. It's huge. You can't miss it. But anyways, that piece is very similar. A bunch of what we call cane put together, rolled up, added more glass on top of it, and blew it up. And so when you actually look at it, you'll see all these little bubbles everywhere, and that is just where air got trapped. So bubbles may seem and sound cool, but when you blow them up, they get thinner. And when you blow a vessel, they may provide thin spots where the glass can further crack. So really, a good portion of all these people working here, their job is to not make glass crack. That's what we do for full time, is not crack glass. Everything you do as far as heating, cooling, putting pieces together, how you're putting them together, are to avoid extra air bubbles and cracks during the annealing process. So that's why we are slowly but surely here warming this up. If he goes too fast at all, any one of those little pieces can get really ticked off and just crack. Meanwhile, that's what Chris is doing over here. And this is called the glory hole. Everybody can laugh right now if they want. That's called the glory hole. Slowly but surely heating this up on a fork. And if anybody's seen that Netflix series, Blown Away, I'm sure you have, I highly believe that they do a lot of stuff on that show just for the drama, because they have students assisting those guys, and they are going to college. And one season, the person operating the fork, this thing, had a glove on the back right hand. And if you can imagine this gets heavier, he's actually controlling the entire weight of the plate just by the counter force on the handle that he's holding, right? If he was just holding it just a solid pipe, then his hands get sweaty, it turns, it slips, it falls off the plate inside the glory hole. Boo. Sucks. Trying to avoid that. So if you can see, he's also using this little T-bar at the back to control the balance while he's holding the plate. He's just putting it down, turning it around evenly, like if you had a microwave, and it was just nicely turning it for you so it heats nice and evenly. Over to the right where Jampy opening the door is, that's the blower on the right-hand side. So inside there, it's not just one big, nice, even circle. It's actually blasting heat from the right-hand side. So we got to keep turning it to make sure it's heating up evenly. While he's getting that flattened and settled and bubble less, right? We know there's going to be bubbles, but bubble less. Over here, John has been slowly but surely starting his bubble. So John's pipe over here has a hole in it. He blew in the beginning and very slowly but surely started to form the base of what we're going to put this on top of, right? So that form, the first few layers, has to be as even as possible, as even as you can possibly get it, because we're going to add all these weird undulations to it in a minute, right? So it's going to get uneven anyway. So the more smooth and even and symmetrical that is, the better this overall piece will be. From start to finish, when you're making a glass piece, all you're trying to do really is anything you can do to keep it as even as possible. So some of these colors, since they're different chemicals and they move differently, some of them are going to want to heat up really fast and blow out really fast, and others are going to be super stiff and are not going to heat up as fast. And when you add air to the one side that's still really tight, one color, like white is really uptight. It really is. And then on another side, you have something that moves really easy, like red or yellow. You heat them up, and all of a sudden, they just move really fast. And then they cool down. So you only have a very small window to do whatever you want to it. Blow, shape, stretch, whatever. So you're keeping that in mind while you're working the whole piece. If you start to blow the vessel, you have different colors on all different sides. You got, white on this side and red on this side, and they're all moving differently. You have to do your best to try to keep it as even as possible with heat distribution. That includes, third-party friends like torches, that big hot torch on the behind the bench. So we're just going to slowly but surely try to pick this bad boy up. Now, the goal is to not let it stick to the plate, because sometimes you can't control. That's perfect. John did a wonderful job. So sometimes one little spot will get extra, extra hot, and it'll like tack to the plate, and you go to pick it up, and it causes problems. So we got lucky today. No problems at all. Just pick that up nice and easy. Now, again, we're going to do this a little slower. You can't just push all that right now, because as you see, it's pretty hard. It cooled pretty fast. So he's going to heat this up in the glory hole for a little bit longer, and slowly but surely, as evenly as he possibly can, roll that little external layer on there. Who has first time here? First time here. Holy guacamole, holy crap. Do you see that? That's awesome. Fantastic. Who, this is not their first time here? Hey, return friends. Thank you so much. No, I don't like you guys. I love you both evenly. Just trust me. But thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Sir, you have a question? Got scream. Correct. Color shortage? Yeah. So just like with everything else during the pandemic, we order our color from places, just like everybody else in the world. We got to get the stuff that we're using from somewhere. And especially the past couple years, the shortage of inventory of everything else, the glass color artists have been struggling also. It's no easy feat for them. And then sometimes when something that you've been using for years, whether it's your clear batch is what we start with, the clear batch. Clear batch comes in either powder or pellets or whatever, and then we throw it in here, and this is where it lives. And there's like a huge thing. So during our flood recently, this is electric, this is gas powered. This is what was on after the impact, after water it hit, and it lasted about 3 hours. About 3 hours. It was still doing it, and all of a sudden it just said, screw this, and kicked out. So we got to replace some electronic parts over here, but in the meantime, we're working out of our electric furnace. So all these pieces we order from somewhere, and you also order the color from somewhere else too. So the past couple years, when a color you love, or just like, you know, cosmetics, just a color that you love runs out. Oh, thank you. You got to order it from somewhere else. The prices may be different. You got to settle. You got to adjust, like switching dog food. Tell me about it. I hate it when you have to switch your dog's food. It's a whole process. This is what we put in our, oh God, that's really close. Hang on a second. Yes. All different companies all over the United States and outside the United States. They're just random factories making it anywhere that they can. And so some are better, some are worse, some are higher quality, some are not. And then when you melt them down, some are crystal clear, some have maybe a tint or something. But anyways, what you were asking about the color is that we order it from all over. Yes, we did have a shortage. A lot of artists had to adjust and shift. I was actually looking at a glass forum on some Facebook or something the other day, and it was a bunch of professional people that have been in the industry for a very long time. They were all talking about sharing their own homemade different recipes for their own batch. So they started to go out and buy the individual elements on the table and putting together their own clear. No, are you kidding me? No, never. I would never even try to mess with that. So it can get pretty intense. I think there's some laws, national laws and state laws probably, that those distribution companies have to follow because they are selling hard, raw, chemical material. So anyways, while I've been chatting, yeah, you got a question? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So if you know a certain color moves better or not, if it's thicker or chunkier, it could, like light lavender. Light lavender is such a medium, purple is such a medium color. It heats up normally and it cools normally. No, like if you're starting out blowing, start with the color purple or lavender. It just your work time is longer and it doesn't take as long to cool.
After they ask, repeat the question so that other people.
Oh, good call. Thank you. So can you kind of foresee that a little bit? And if you're working with a color, you add more of it so it thickens it up. Yeah, so you also have to keep in mind, is it going to be opaque or transparent? Can you see through it or not, right? So that matters too. Opaque colors that you can't really see through tend to be thicker and harder to work with. Transparent colors in general, not always, but in general, are just easier to move. So while I've been chatting here, John's just been sculpting away. And so even though this little piece on the end here is really cool and is going to have some kind of beautiful color in it, we should flatten it and put a torch on the back of it and save it as paperweight. He may throw that away. So that was extra weight that if John would have kept blowing, that extra uneven little weight at the end, he guessed, that's probably going to throw my piece off. I want to keep it as egg-like, round, and even as thickness as possible. So he looked at his interior bubble, and he could see the interior bubble versus the exterior glass on the outside, and kind of made a judgment call, I'm going to cut off this fat chunk at the end here because that's going to mess my piece up. So now he's just reheating, and eventually when he pulls it out, it'll be a nice, a lot more even round shape, which will further blow out later. So a lot of glass artists, when they start blowing, they have to kind of envision the shape that they're going to make right before you start your first, what we call a gather. So in here is the glass, right? And you get what we call a gather, a single gather. A single gather can be big, it can be small. I am working on a solid pipe right here, so it's just like not a hole, it's not a blowpipe. So this is a teeny tiny little single one gather. So John here, he's got like 4 thick, heavy gathers on there. The bigger the gather, how many more gathers that you take? Thank you. You want to play with it? Eileen's going to play with it here. Yeah, you go for it. I can't do 2 things at the same time. I can't talk and, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Sorry. So John's got several gathers. You have a short window to play with it, right? Before it's glass. It starts to get hard, and then it has a tendency to crack. So when I was talking about buying different kinds of batch everywhere, that, just clear alone, the different kinds that they make and sell, they all act differently. Some are more like putty, some are more like taffy, some you pull out and harden immediately, and there's no work time. You saw Aline had like, I don't know, 20 seconds? 20 seconds of work time, and that 20 seconds versus 5 seconds makes a big difference. Yes? You can't take it out. Nope. So there are artists that put color on purpose into their furnace. So it melts, stir, mix it, Betty Crocker style, stir it up, and then everything you pull out of there is a tinted whatever, tinted blue, tinted green, whatever you tinted your pot with. But when you're working in a studio like this and you got so many different people making so many different things all the time, you really got to keep the main furnace clear. No. Well, okay, yes. Yes, you can. But if there's too many bubbles in the scrap piece, he asked if you could take a scrap trash piece and just throw it back into the furnace and remelt it down, recycle it. You can to a certain extent, but if there's too many bubbles or messes, like messy parts in it, you're putting that in there. And so when you put all that jacked up, blown up, cracked glass in there, you just added a whole bunch of unnecessary bubbles to your tank that you're going to have to stir out later so that you don't pick them up later. Instead of when you melt down something like this, where it just melts down nice and evenly distributed. Sometimes color sticks to the end of the pipe. We blow, and then when we're done, we knock it off here in a little water bucket. And iron doesn't like glass on a chemical level, so as it shrinks, it cracks apart. And it cannot stay together on a physical microscopic level because the chemical elements are different. So as it cools down, they just pop apart. It's beautiful. But on some weird jacked up way, there is a microscopic piece on the end that still sticks sometimes. It always boggles my mind because I don't understand how it could be there on a small chemical level. But anyways, color does stick to that sometimes. And that's how you can tell the good quality of a furnace, of a tank, is sometimes color will pop off in there, generally on a tiny little level. It floats down to the bottom of the tank and just burns off, and you can never really see, and the tank looks really clear. But some studios have a dirtier tank. You know, we don't. We keep our glass really nice and gorgeous so all the artists can work with it. All right, so we got a few things going on while I was chatting here. John just kept blowing the piece up, heating it up evenly, blowing it up, heating it up evenly. Trying to keep this piece a little thicker, right? Because we know we have a bunch of undulations because he picked it up all weird and they were all different blown thicknesses. So if you just keep the piece generally thicker and not blow it so thin, you have a higher chance of the piece surviving if it's already starting out a little rocky. But it's blowing absolutely beautifully and evenly here. So this little glory hole, 2,400, 2,300 right here, blowing in John's face, just that alone. Furnace, 2,000-ish, right? So this glory hole has to blow hotter than what the actual glass lives at all the time. Otherwise, John would be sitting here, standing here, trying to heat up this glass piece for days. So it has to blow hotter so that he can go in, it gets up, gets super hot, gets up super fast, and then he can take it out again and work with it. Just heating it up and letting gravity do its job, just hanging it. So good. That's how you can tell a really awesome artist is they don't exert so much of the physical energy that they don't have to, and let heat and gravity do it for you. Get it hot and just let it hang for a little while. John's going to do a fancy move here. Maybe, maybe not. Don't hit the TV. I always hit the TV. Every time. You can spin the pipe, and it does give it a centrifugal force stretch out, right? So when you would spin the pipe in the air, you're adding force on the back end of the pipe, and so the glass will stretch a little harder, a little faster. I always hit the TV by accident. It's like I forget that it's there, but I know it's there, but I always hit the TV. Sorry, TV. So, slowly but surely, he's just stretching this out. I'm going to take a drink break. I just started following this glass blowing handle coming out of India, and if you can imagine, there's like 30 guys in a factory, and all those cups you see at Walmart, all those cups you see at Target, all those cups you see everywhere else, they're all perfectly blown, perfectly thin, and they perfectly match. They don't come from a hand, they come from a mold. They come from a bunch of guys swinging these pipes around, getting globs of glass on it, not even really thinking about it, just really quickly shoving it in a mold, blowing it, and passing it off to the next guy. The next guy takes it back to the bench, finishes it, packs it off to the next guy. It is a very elaborate chain, and it is awesome to watch. But it's weird comparing American glass blowing to like production factory glass blowing in other countries, because like they're just a bunch of guys like hanging out right here, like right next to, like swinging stuff. It's all right. They're cool. Just get as close. You know, they may like throw the pipe to the other one. They just like, here, catch it, and they actually do. They catch it. It's amazing. I know. So I'm sorry, I got to call this out. These adorable little, gorgeous little twins in the front row are John's children, and his wife, just adorable. So rooting Dad on. Go, Dad. Make an amazing resurrection piece. Maybe. You know, we try. We try. A lot of us have kids. Some of their kids are interested. Some of them could give a crap less. They got other stuff going on. It's just like anything else, you know. We think it's really cool. Just because we think it's really cool doesn't mean our kids do. I don't know. Well, time will tell on these two. Time will tell. Oliver is not interested. Jess said hard no. One of them pass. So we just got another little piece going in the works. He's arranging his little. It's not like a painting, but it is kind of like a painting. In the meantime, Ethan is over here swinging the pipe while John's kind of like coaching and assisting from the side. So Ethan's main job right now is to get it from point A, the bench, where he's at, to the glory hole without screwing it up, because it's John's piece. But no, I'm just kidding. It's a team thing. So yes, John's what we call the gaffer, the main glass blower, Gaffer. John right now is the lead gaffer. And we're all gaffer's assistants around him. And when you work with somebody a really long time, you know the forms that they make. You know the pieces that they make. You know what's coming. You can kind of get the stuff they need for them before they know they need it. We're all kind of working on a whim here, and it's so much harder to make a piece when you're sweating your butt off like John is, trying to keep everything center and even, and then you got to, on top of that, tell other people what to do. It sucks. So being able to do that, have excellent communication skills, and talk to everybody in a cool, calm, collective way is awesome. If you don't do that and scream at a bunch of people while you're working, you're called a glass hole. It's an actual thing. They exist in the world. I've worked for a lot of them. They're so mean, but they do exist. Most of us here are not glass holes. That's why we all work very well together. So yeah, in the meantime, downtime, John is just sitting here flattening the bottom. We're about ready to do what we call a transfer. I'm so sorry, I'm screaming in this microphone. I can't get it like to the perfect. Okay, we're about to do a transfer here. So that's the vessel he's been blowing the whole time, but the whole time you're blowing glass, you're blowing upside down, and you're trying to have to anticipate the shape while it's upside down. And so we're going to flip it. So the piece that is the top is this narrow piece, what we call the neck. And when glass blowers are talking about blowing a piece or what they want to make, they got to talk to their assistants and say, like, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going to make. So you got to tell them, like, what kind of vessel, what kind of shape, like, what do you have in mind? So they know, like, how to help you best. They know, like, what to bring you. And when you speak in reference to a shape that you want to make, you speak in reference to the physical body form. So where John is holding the torch right now is the neck, the top. In the middle, of course, is the hips. And the feet down at the bottom is the base. As far as glass blowing goes, you can have hundreds and thousands and millions of different combinations to any form that you make. But whatever form you do decide to make, it's going to make a difference how that first bubble started. So if you think back to when John had that clear bubble, when I pointed it out in the very beginning, what kind of shape did it have? Had kind of this shape, right? Had kind of this longer but thicker shape. If you wanted to blow something really short and stout, when you start your very first gather or two, you keep it short and stout the whole time. So the kind of shape that you make throughout the very beginning reflects the end result that you're going to have. If you mess up and maybe blow a short, stout shape in the beginning and you really wanted a shape like this that's long, it's not going to happen. So glass has stress like we all do, and when you add water to it, and when you touch it with cold steel, it doesn't like it. It makes it mad. So if you touch or add water while you're making stuff in a very specific way and manner, you are your own therapist. You are your pieces of glass therapist. You are telling it where to stress out and where to not, where to cool it off and where to push the buttons. So what John just did is during this transfer, he put water and he touched around the neck with steel a little bit longer, and it stressed the glass out right there. So all he had to do is hit it once or twice back here. And when you do that, it sends, again, centrifugal force, not really centrifugal force, kinetic force actually, sorry. It sends it down the pipe. So you hit it back here, and the force here may be a little bit, like a few waves, but by the time it gets to the end of the pipe, it's a lot stronger. So the harder that you hit it, the harder that the kinetic wave hits the piece, right? So when you're working with something really gentle and really fragile, like this, you don't want to hit it hard. You don't want to bang on it, right? Because the piece is just going to crack off really sharply. You just got to add a little bit of stress where you want it to crack or break. You also have to predefine that line. You can't just put water, a drop of water, or touch it with steel anywhere and it'll perfectly crack just right there. You have to think about the thickness and the thinness of the glass. So up at the neck, John purposely got it thinner, and then that's where he decided to narrow it down, make it even thinner, and then add stress to it with water and touch it with the metal, and it just asked for it to crack. Those amazing glass blowing videos that you see of Italian maestros over in Italy, and they're making these crazy small elaborate things, and they do it all super fast, and the only time they are purposefully cooling it is when they're actually touching it with their tools. And it's just bonkers to watch, to think about somebody has the control over the material in that much of a meticulous way. But anyways, really telling the piece where you want it to break and where you want it to crack is how we kind of move the piece around, change its axes, flip it around, turn it upside down, whatever we want to do. So John flattened the base before we did the transfer. So now he is heating up what was the coldest part. When you do a transfer and you flip it like that, the entire time, the end, what is now flipped and is the bottom, that was the hottest because we kept heating that end. The end closest to his hands is actually the coldest. So when you do a transfer and you flip it upside down like that, after you do the transfer, you gotta hang out. That's what we're doing right now. We're hanging out. That end part is pretty chilly in comparison to the bottom. So you're doing two things at the same time. You're heating up the end, and then also you're trying to turn as evenly as possible because the part at the bottom, the punty, P-U-N-T-Y, which is what John's holding right now, part of the punty that you're holding is still hot and moving around. So you got something really cold and stiff on the end, and then you got something hot and moving around at the bottom. So he's trying to heat up the end while keeping the bottom stable at the same time. So after you do a transfer like that, there's always kind of like a, ooh, period. Like, okay, everybody hold your breath. Nobody make any sudden movements. Let's just evenly heat this back up pretty calmly. So that's what we're doing right now. Over here, while we're doing that, so yes, the flood hit. The flood got like 3 feet high in this entire room, okay? This entire room was 3 feet high. That means there was 3 feet high of like mud water crap on all the equipment. I washed it off. Yeah, I did. Yes, I'm proud of it. Anyways, this got This took on a little water. This is the biggest annealer that we have. So this allows us to make a bunch of large pieces-ish like this and put them away in here and slowly cool them down. You can see all the other little boxes aren't as big. So you're kind of limited as to what you can make. So this was our big, beautiful beast right here. And we turned it on for the first time since flood. And she's a sizzling, right? So I wouldn't stand too close. FYI, we didn't make you sign waivers. We signed waivers. You didn't sign waivers. Be cautious. So right now, inside here is what we call soft brick. Let me get a piece of soft brick. Here we go. The annealer is lined with little metal coils that are warming it up, and then this stuff, and it's exactly what it looks like. It's brick, but it's made of a material that breaks apart a little easier. It's a little softer. So it's lined with this. So all of these in there, all on the wall, are like little sponges right now. And we're heating them up, and it's kind of a nice little spa corner over here. So that's what's happening over here. Pay no mind. We just got to dry it out a little bit. None of the other annealers took on that much water. So while I'm taking a drink here, we've pulled out the lip, which is the top of the vessel, of the form. At the same time that John is flattening out the lip with a tool called the jacks, those big tong-looking things are called jacks, and that's our #1 tool in glass blowing. That's what we use all the time, constantly. They come in all different shapes and sizes, and they come in all different prices, too. It's about like $500 just right here. You got to keep it straight. Can't bend it. Not like barbecue tools where you can just throw around. These have nice little cozy beds that they sleep in when we're not using them. little wrapped foam beds. What was I talking about? Tools. There's all other kinds of tools that we use on this bench. They have a layout that they lay in specifically. As John sits down, if you notice, he's not even going to look at the bench. He's not even looking at his tools. He's blindly reaching down and grabbing his tools. That process alone takes like years to perfect, because for years you're like looking. You're trying to like look for what you're grabbing. But after you get so awesome, you just reach down and you know where your tools are going to be, and they're just there. Jess is behind, like, shielding his arm because there's mass heat coming off this glass and it's toasty. And so instead of roasting all John's little arm hairs off, Jess is shielding him with a paddle, just blocking that heat off of him. Meanwhile, Chris has another paddle called a tag. Taglio Pietra. Say that 5 times fast. Taglio Pietra is what Chris with the hat has in his hand. It's metal. It's not wood. It's metal. So it shocks and cools the glass faster, harder, and if at a different rate than wood would. wood. It would, wouldn't it? Oh, do we have a knockoff tray? Let me give me that. So we got like mad teamwork going on over here, right? We got like multiple people pulling out the neck. John's pulling out the neck. Chris is flattening it against the blades of the jacks while he's pulling it out at the same time in unison, because it makes it, if you do it when it's hotter, it makes it really nice and flat and crisp and sharp, that lip. We might knock that off, though. We're probably going to knock that off, but we'll see. Jess is, shielding in the back. Ethan's on door duty. Everybody has a job. Everybody has to like watch and make sure that their Aline is keeping what we call the moil warm. So at the bottom there, that's attached to the punny, is the moil. And that has to stay warm-ish, right? If that little connection that the bottom of the vase is on gets too cold, that entire piece is just going to fall on the ground, which is going to suck. And it happens from time to time. It might happen today, but we're probably not. I think we're feeling lucky today. So even though that piece was really cool that we took off, That's not the form that John is going for. He wants a nice, tall, long neck. And so pulling that form off completely and jacking it down, what we call, with the jacks, narrowing the shape, is giving him what he's looking for. We may have closed the hole just a teeny tiny bit too much. So you get it super toasty, and then you just cut it open like a straw, because that's exactly what's going on in there. Once again, thank you so much for coming down tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Give yourself an applause for coming down to Third Degree Glass Factory. We love you so much for being here. We really do. It's been a hard few weeks. We appreciate your faces, every single one of you. Coming out, showing your love, supporting, watching a bunch of people do weird stuff to chemicals. I know, it's pretty cool. It's essentially what it is. There's all kinds of other stuff going on tonight, too. I think there's some fire spinners coming at some point in time. I haven't checked the schedule. I'm sure you can look on your Facebook page. Fire spinners are coming, and then right down the alley here, I think there's either a biker or a skateboarder guy. There's BMX, thank you. Some famous BMX guy. I don't know his name, sorry. He is going to be doing some stunts right down here, down the alley across the street. It's pretty cool. So after this demo, if you head over there, see what's going on over there. I don't know what time he's starting, but I'm sure they'll let us know. I think we have music too. There's probably a band of some sort going to be playing in the front room a little bit later. I think we got not food trucks. I'm a horrible narrator. Who's here? We have food over there in the courtyard. There's food, there's drinks. Enjoy yourselves. So very slowly but surely here.
BMX guy is Zach Warden. He's X Games champ.
Zach Warden, and he's an X Games champ, is what I've been told. So check out Zach Warren. I probably should. I will. I would thank you. So we're just kind of cooling this down here evenly. We're getting ready to box it, to put it away. We're almost done. Hey, nobody cheer or applaud until that thing is in one of these boxes. So that is like a glass blower jinx. If you get all excited about the piece and you're like, yeah, we did it, awesome. And then like it breaks off on the floor like right now. It's just horrible. So we never like applaud or actually think it's finally done until it is living in one of these little homes over here. Where are we going? What about? Oh, so we're going to the knockoff booth, which is this thing behind. Alina's taking a torch and she's flattening it. So when you finish blowing glass, you take it back to a cold shop and you could like, once it's cold, you could polish it and grind it and all these things. But to prevent doing any more of that labor, you can polish it off right here. And there she sleeps in a 930-degree little bed. We fill it up until we're done and turn it down later. Way to go, John. John Biskin, everybody. Everybody give him a round of applause for the amazing resurrection piece that he just created. Woo! All right, so we're going to collect ourselves. We're going to have a little demo later. If you guys want to go get some drinks, walk around, buy some glass. There's not a lot left of it. You should buy it. What we have left survived a flood. That's pretty cool. Some of those pieces we found in the alley down the street. You should take one home, and that's an excellent story to tell. How'd I do?